Good morning. Okay, hi. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Hope Shield. I'm an eye care prevention specialist with the eye care program, and we are so excited to have you join us today for our annual summit. I have the honor of introducing our speaker for today, Miss Raven Dunlap, LPC. So, Miss Dunlap is an author, a licensed professional counselor, a national board certified counselor, and a school counselor at Caneview Elementary School, which is a K through 8 school. She is a graduate of Southern University and A&M College, and she is currently pursuing her doctorate degree. May I present Ms. Raven Dunlap? And you can always also refer to the eye care website for additional bio and contact information on our speakers. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much in advance for your attendance today. I hope that you're able to take something away from this discussion today and this session, this topic, and it's so important, but very easy to forget. So we're going to go ahead and pull up the slideshow I prepared for you all and jump right into it. All right, talk too much. It's kind of odd name for a presentation, right? But it'll all make sense. I promise it'll all tie together. Before we get started, officially, I'll go ahead and add a little more about my bio. Thank you for that introduction, Miss Hope. So about myself, I'm a licensed professional counselor. I am a national board certified counselor, certified school counselor, a doctoral candidate, and yes, author. But of all those titles, and I love all that I do. I love the work that I do and the kids that I'm able to work with. However, my most important and most rewarding title is mom. Therefore, that is why it is huge on this screen. So before anything, I enjoy being just that, a mom. I have a 5-year-old daughter named Drea, who is my pride and joy. She really keeps me on my toes. And she's one of the reasons that I'm able to have all of those other titles that I've accrued over the last couple of years. That title or name mommy is one of the most important to me, and it's the one I'm most proud of. So let's talk about that. Mommy or daddy. Sorry, fellas, if you're joining us, if I failed to leave off daddy. I'm just so used to hearing mommy all the time, but I'm speaking to you all too, so don't be offended. I promise. It's this presentation caters to both sides. So the term mommy or daddy. I know you hear it just as much as I do. Whether it's mommy or daddy, you hear it all the time. So the purpose of this presentation today is discuss the importance of parent-child communication, learn effective communication and listening strategies, and discuss appropriate verbal and nonverbal responses with children. So this slide is kind of funny, but it's what we go through every day. Hello, my name is mommy or daddy. We hear it all the time. Um, Sometimes we hear it just to get our attention or to show us some little trick they learned. Even if it's most of the time it's always a little karate kick. Mommy, watch this, and then they do it. And to be honest, it's really not that cool of a move. They just want to do it, and they think it's pretty cool. So we just kind of give it a little bit of attention. So, but let's be honest. After continuous mommy, 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 daddy, 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 at that point you're either ignoring them, asking them what in a really loud voice, or asking them not to call your name or to call you something else. I'm so guilty of that. Just call me by something else. I can't hear the word mommy again. So, how do I know that this is the response that we give? Well, because I'm guilty of each and every one of them. And today I plan on being completely honest, open and honest with you guys. And I hope that you are the same with me and okay with keeping it real today. So go ahead and put in the chat box if you are too guilty of these responses when your children constantly call your name several times over and over each day. I promise it's a judgment free zone. So we're just gonna watch this video and we're gonna see just how that mommy, 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 daddy can get really, really under your skin. Let's see if I can pull it up. All right, so this video is an example of what we kind of listen to or hear day in and day out.
Lewis! 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 Mom! 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 Mommy! 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 Mama! 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 Ma! 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 Mom! 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 Mommy! Mommy! Mama! Mama! Mama!
What?
Hi.
Yes, that video is exactly what we kind of hear all day, every day, just to kind of get our attention. So that's a cool little video. I like to that I found that I wanted to show you guys just to give you an example of yes, this happens, and sometimes it's just to get our attention and for nothing. So later on in life, if you have adolescents or teens, you may not hear that my at the end of mommy anymore. You might just hear mom, or you might just hear dad. So that is dropped. And you might not hear it as much at all as you did when those were younger children. Also, some teens and adolescents like to call their parents by their first name. Carlos, Jasmine, Brittany, for example. Now I have to give a disclaimer after this. Let's just be clear, mom, if you're watching, I only called your name for educational purposes. This is not allowed in my home, clearly, no matter how old I get. So it's just forever gonna be mommy. But just as the MY and the DYs are dropped, there may also be a decline in the amount of times you hear your name being called or being asked to do something with an increase in age. Plain and simple, the older that our children get, the less they need us for small things or ask us questions or want to talk. Now, they will ask us for things, to buy them things, of course, but not just to tell us about their day. Um, and while we see children wanting to talk less, we see an increase in parents wanting to talk more. We want to know more about what's going on in their lives. With adolescents and tweens, we pretty much are begging to have a conversation about their day or who their friends are or what's bothering them. And as our children turn into adults, we call constantly and ask them where they are, what are they doing, because they don't give up that information freely anymore. If you guys with adult children are anything like my mom, again, mom, this is only for educational purposes. I love you. But my mother will call my sister and I back to back to back. And then now she's finally mastered texting. So she will send us a text asking, why are you not answering? And if that response time does not satisfy her, then she will turn into a detective. She will rethink the previous conversations we had on who I was with or where I was going, and she would contact that person to reach out to me. And then I just hear the dreadful words, Raven, your mama called. She says for you to call her back. Okay, so first I'm embarrassed and clueless as to how she even got my friend's number. She would even call a store that she knew that I was going to and find out because she was that worried. And I do get it now that I'm a parent, but back then it was just embarrassing. Um, so when I do return that call, I'm already afraid because I know that she's going to be upset because I'm not answering. And she would say, why are you not answering that phone? I've been trying to call you. So let's not even get into what would happen if my phone actually died and I don't call using someone else's phone. That day, you might just see an Amber Alert with my name on it. So as you can see, kids call on us when they need us most, or sooner than later as they become adults. We need them when they need us. Not to depend on, but just they need to know about our day. We need to know they need to know where we are, what we're doing, or if we're safe, just for their own peace of mind. Communication is truly key, and childhood experiences have lasting emotional and psychological effects into adulthood. So think about it. I'm going to tell you guys a little story, and you can comment in the chat box and give your opinion about what's going on and your thoughts as to what's happening in this story. It's not a true story. I actually made this up while I was on a flight to Atlanta, but it kind of helps see how how important communication is and what we can turn our children into if we don't provide them with the communication and responses that they need. There's a 5-year-old girl that always called her mom's name, and I mean for anything and everything that she needed or wanted or had to say. Mommy, I need to potty. Mommy, look what I can do. Mommy, I'm hungry. Mommy, I'm sad. Mommy, my best friend is Hope at school. Mommy, at school, Miss Betty said I can go to the shopping center. Mommy, yesterday I didn't potty on myself. Mommy, 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 consistently and constantly, to the point where the mother stopped responding. She would simply do whatever task it was that the child needed, but she remained silent to keep her own peace. She would nod her head after the very short, unimportant to her stories. She would give a thumbs up after the little girl showed her little unskilled kicks and jumps. She would not say a word to acknowledge her daughter or to engage in her unsolicited or pointless conversations. Her daughter then became aware. Because, as you know, children have great insight, they pay attention to everything. So, a few years passed and the daughter turned 15. She had friends, but not the best friend group to hang out with because of their choices. She struggled in school, her grades were not so great, but she got by. She was very talented in art, but never wanted to join a club, and she never wanted to have her work displayed. She was exercised the pledge one morning, which was a huge honor at her school, but she declined the offer. She was constantly depressed and extremely anxious around others. She didn't speak that much at home and still had an imaginary friend and a journal in which she wrote in daily. One day, the girl was severely depressed and upset and mentioned to one of her friends that death would probably be easy. The friend found that statement alarming and reported it to the school counselor. The school counselor conducted an assessment to check and see if the girl was a threat to herself. After the assessment, the girl's mom was called and asked to come to the school. The school also asked that the mom have the student see a medical professional just to check it out and make sure that the child was safe. Before the mom left, the counselor and mom had a small talk. The counselor asked mom if the daughter has ever experienced anything like this before or said anything similar. Mom replied, "No, she never really talks about anything. She's really quiet. That's the end of the story. But I know by now you all have come up with a conclusion or a reason as to why the child behaved the way that she did. So if you have, go ahead and put in the chat box. What are your thoughts? I'm going to give you just a few minutes. What are your thoughts about the story? And what did the mom do, or did she play a part in how the child behaved today? So to sum it all up, I'm unable to see your guys' responses, but her mother silenced her at an early age. So she shut down as an adolescent. She didn't ask questions in class. She didn't ask for help because she was in fear of being silenced or in fear that the teacher didn't care enough. Poor communication in early childhood can lead to poor social skills and low self esteem as a young adult. This is why she didn't want her artwork to be shown, or she didn't want to join a club because she didn't want too much attention, and she was also in fear of being possibly ignored. She had friends that made bad choices, but she didn't have to talk that much in their group. They just hung out, listened to music. She still had an imaginary friend at her age because there was someone or something that she designed that listened to her. She had a journal because it allowed her to speak freely and without judgment, and nothing and no one could ignore her. Even though we don't realize it, we shape our children with our actions. But before they learn to speak and repeat, they understand by mimicking behaviors and they pay attention to verbal and nonverbal cues. So it's not just what we teach them day in and day out, For example, we say be kind to others and treat people the way you want to be treated, or pay attention in class. They pay attention to what we do most. I'm sure most of you have done like a little dance or clap your hands and then the child mimicked or followed and repeated that same action before. They're always paying attention and watching and always learning. So we are their first teachers. Okay? How to silence a child. And this kind of goes along with the story that I just told you guys. Okay. We present their voices as untrustworthy. So sometimes we say, when they tell us a story, we say, "Are you sure that happened?" Or we kind of question them without actually questioning them. And in that, they can tell by our responses and cues that we don't really believe what they're saying. Lack of attention. When we're listening or when they're talking, we're tending to do other things, or we're washing dishes while listening. We're not being completely focused. And that also goes along with lack of availability, or we're not home at all. Downplaying situations or negating that something is very important. We also sometimes put more weight on adult views when stories conflict. And this is absolutely true, and this is what my mom did when I was growing up, and I was completely upset and hurt. But I kind of understand why. But in middle school, I was not the quietest child, so I talked when I was not able to talk in class or not supposed to talk in class, and the teacher would contact my mom and say, this and this and this happened. And I would go back and forth and say, no, mama, this is what I did. And my mom would always believe the teacher. She would take her side. So that made me not even want to tell her anymore, like a side. I just had to take whatever punishment that I was getting and stop talking back. So that's a thing. And I do understand that now, how that impacts children by not giving their or not believing their stories and not letting it hold weight. Sometimes we listen to respond rather than just listening. And this is when someone is having a conversation with you and you jump in and stop them just to say your part because you feel like it's more important. And not to say that it isn't important, it's just that we don't let people tell the full story first without interrupting them and jumping in and saying what we really want to say. So, for example, if someone's saying, "Oh, I went to the store and I really bought a really nice dress." "Oh, okay, I got a new dress too. It's pink. I think you'll like it." So we're interrupting what they're trying to say without them completing the story and interrupting and not listening to listen, just listening to respond. Um, which is also kind of interrupting with an opinion. Um, presupposing what they might say. So trying to finish sentences for your child if you already know what happened. Say, for instance, a teacher sent you a picture of the child playing in the sand at school. And so the child comes home, she's really excited. She or he is really excited. "Mom, guess what we did today at school?" Instead of you saying, "I know, y'all played in the sand. I already saw the pictures." Let them express what they want to say to you in the way that they want to say it. Most of the time, our children are really, really excited to talk to us, and we don't realize it. They really want to share what they've done good or what they've done that was different that day. So let them do just that. Let's not finish the sentence for them. Let them get it all out and then pretend that you don't even know what happened at school that day. "Oh, okay, that's so exciting. You guys played in the sand." Let them finish their sentences. A lack of genuine praise. And I am guilty of this. I told you I am not an expert because I'm not perfect with this, but I'm working on it. So we're learning together today. But lack of genuine praise. Sometimes when my daughter would do a little drawing, um, and it's something I've probably seen before, I'll say something like, "Oh, that's really nice." And then I keep doing what I'm doing. Or, "Oh, that's cool." And then in that sense, I'm kind of downplaying what she's done and it's not making her want to share with me what she's done or drawn or anything she's excited about. So make sure that when you're giving praise to children that it is genuine because they can tell when it's not. And the last one, overpraising another child. This was something that we don't even realize that we do sometimes, but we have to kind of watch out for it because it will make our children feel like they are lesser than, and then it can affect their self-esteem. So saying things like, "Oh, I saw Joseph, he got all A's and B's. That's so awesome. I know his mom is proud." In that sense, think of you as a child. Like, what are you thinking? That child is thinking, "Wow, my mom's not proud of me. I didn't get all A's and B's. She's more excited for them." And so sometimes when we do that, we see our children saying, "Mom, look what I did." And they'll try to show you something that they've done that they want you to be excited about also. And we have to make sure if we do overpraise another child, we have to give them that same praise or even more to let them know that they are doing great things also.
Hey, Miss Dunlap, your
Uh-huh.
presentation isn't showing. You want to pop it back up for
Yes.
us? All right.
So sorry about that. Let's see. Is it showing now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. So it's not what you say sometimes to your children. Y'all know the rest. It's how you say it. So by using age appropriate language is the first thing. We don't want to just talk and believe that our children understand what we're saying. So saying things like, "That was very disrespectful for you to do that to your teacher. We're not going to do that again." If my child is 5, she doesn't understand what disrespectful is. She's not understanding that concept. So I would have to tone it down to her age appropriate understanding and say, "That was not a nice thing for you to do in class. That's totally different from that was very disrespectful." So we have to make sure that they're understanding, because you correcting them, it's kind of going over their head. So we have to make sure that the language that we use is appropriate for their age. Space and stance. Sometimes when we are fussing or having an argument with our children, we tend to point this finger in their face, just like the silhouette that you see on the screen, and we tower over them. And it's really an authoritative type of stance, as to where, like, "I'm big, you're little." And it makes them feel inferior, or it makes them feel less than. So instead, the correct thing to do would be to meet them at their level. If they're shorter, come down to meet with them, or sit on the floor with them, or sit in a chair next to them, so that you can be at eye level and they won't feel so afraid because you're bigger than them. Meet them on their level to show them that you care and you want them to understand, and you giving them your full attention rather than just yelling at them in an authoritative manner. Voice and tone. I can preach all day and say, "Don't yell," or "Don't raise your voice," but then I'd be a hypocrite, because when we're trying to get our point across, it's ideal that we do raise our voice. This is something that we do and we can't control. But in some sense, we need to find a good tone to have conversations with children, because them yelling, us yelling, is 5 versus 5. If you bring your tone down when talking to them, 9 times out of 10, they'll bring their tone down. And I do this with my classes often. I do teach counseling classes at the school that I work with. So if they're yelling and upset, or they're yelling and talking to each other really loudly, I say, "Well, I'm not gonna raise my voice. I'm gonna talk to you just right here. And if you want to hear what I'm saying, you'll have to be quiet." And they usually calm down and they take it very seriously. So just try it. I'm still working on trying it at home though. Um, Also provide a solution. If you're upset with your child, you have to give them a solution of how to change it next time, or how to fix what error they've made. For example, if you're upset, you didn't wash your dishes, you left the cabinets open. Why would you do that? That is just, you need to clean up behind yourself. So instead of just pointing out what they're continuously doing wrong, give them a solution. Next time, can you make sure that you put this away? Teach them how to do things the right way, rather than just saying negative, negative, negative. You're doing this wrong. Make sure that you're giving them a way to do it right. Insert a compliment if you can. So we use that same example. That child might have made cereal, but she made a mess that morning. I'm so proud of you for making your own cereal, but it comes with cleaning up behind yourself. So make sure that you put the things away that you take out. So insert a compliment and giving a solution at the same time and getting your point across. Because at the end of the day, all you want to do is get your message across to your child. Avoid talking down to them, which we kind of talked about earlier with the stance and authoritative stance, and giving them the opportunity to talk. Sometimes we just want to yell, we just want to get our point across, and we ask questions, and then we say, don't talk back, which is something my mom used to do all the time. Why would you do that? And then I would start, and she would say, don't talk back. Um, so giving them the opportunity to share their piece because it does matter. You do want to know, why did you leave this out? You might not be okay with the response of I forgot, but you have to give them a chance to say something. So now that we know how this can affect children and what could go wrong, let's talk about how can we make it right. So some effective strategies. So first we have to create a climate for communication. And what that means is we have to make sure that we have the space, the time, and everything is right for us to communicate certain things. So, availability, making sure that you are available to have time to talk to your children, um, even if it's like in between activities or things of that nature. Finding the time to give them a chance to speak with you is very important. Start talking when they're young. We may not really can fully give attention to everything our child wants to tell us about their day, but having time like how was school today and letting them share. Start when they're young so that they will know how to communicate and answer questions, which will then help them turn into better adults. And we will talk about that also later. Um, Create a climate of love, showing that you care and you support and you are available for them to talk to you, understanding, um, making sure that you're understanding what they're saying to you and checking for understanding throughout the conversation. So if my child is speaking and saying that they had a bad day because this happened, so might say something like, I understand that you had a bad day because you lost your favorite pencil, and then letting them continue to talk. That is showing them that you're understanding and that you care. Acceptance. Sometimes we have trouble like accepting the things that our children want to say to us because of our personal views. We have to be open and honest, and we'll talk about that later. But allow them to be open and honest with us also, and accepting what they're trying to say, and have a little patience, especially with our little ones, making sure that we give them time to talk. Sometimes it can take a really long time. So make sure that you are available to listen to them and nothing is distracting you and nothing is distracting them so that you can give them your full attention and patience when they are speaking to you. Taking the time to talk. This is something I started talking about a little bit with availability. During dinner time, making sure that there is a space that you guys are eating together. If you have that time, use that time to start a conversation. Even something as simple as, well, what did you have for lunch at school today? Using that little portion of time that you have face to face, if you guys have busy schedules, to talk. And at that time, like alleviating and putting away our electronics and television, just having some good old fashioned talking. If you have an older child, phone calls. I know sometimes people put in or they have a routine that they have with their children. So where they call them right after school or at a certain time of the day and they catch up. So either creating a routine or just making sure that you're doing those phone calls, checking in, especially if you guys have opposing schedules to where you guys don't have that time to talk face to face. During activities or chores. If they have a chore that they're doing and maybe in the same room, use that time to talk. Also during bedtime, right before bed, it's a great time to talk when you're settling down from the day. Right after school, is when they kind of remember most what happened that day at school. I know by the end of the day, if it's at bedtime and I ask my daughter, well, what did y'all do at school today? She has no idea. So right after school is a good time to have a conversation about their day. And even if you're doing other activities together, such as watching TV or watching a movie, during those commercials, having that time to squeeze in a little conversation. Provide an explanation. This is hard for adults to do. It's really quite difficult because we're so used to not having one from our parents. And what I mean by providing an explanation is because I said so. We're all guilty of saying this, I'm pretty sure. But saying things like, for example, if your child asks you, "Can I go to the skating rink with one of my friends and sleep over at their house?" and your response is no, you already know that their next question is going to be why. They want to know why they can't go. And if your response is because I say so or because I said so, it's shutting them down, right? So giving that child a response saying, no, you can't go and stay over because we have to get up really early tomorrow and get you to your soccer game. Or you have to get up, I want you to be at home tonight so you can be well rested for your test the next day. Or because it's a school night. Giving them an explanation helps them to know that they're a person and it's not so authoritative. You're not being authoritative by saying I'm the boss and because I said so. When I first selected this topic to talk about, I thought about if my boss communicated with me the same ways or the negative ways that I communicate with my child, how would I feel? And if I ask one day, hi, is it okay that I take off this day because I need to do this? And my boss says no. And if I say why, and she responds, because I said so, there's going to be an attitude for, I'm sure, the rest of the year. So think about that. Think about somebody responding to you that way and how you would feel because it's exactly how our children feel. You also using I statements. So when we're having an argument or we're having a tiff with our children, when we say you can't do this, you can't keep doing this, we might want to use that and turn it into using an I statement and putting it back on yourself. For example, you can't keep coming home late. It's so inconsiderate. Instead of saying that, maybe saying, I feel worried when you come home late. I can't even sleep. So then in that turn, they know how you feel and why you feel that way. And then they feel inconsiderate. And you don't have to tell them that it is inconsiderate because they start to understand the way that you feel. So use those I statements whenever possible. Active listening. And listening, it seems so easy to do, but sometimes we can even do that wrong. Active listening includes being present, showing up, being available, giving attention. Um, but first, you have to build that trust and establish rapport with your child. So if they see that you're never giving them your full attention, you're always doing something else, they won't be able to trust you or they won't want to share big issues that they have going on because they know that you're so busy and you have so much going on. So you build that trust by being present and giving them attention. In that same token, paying attention and asking for clarification. Ask questions when you don't understand. Demonstrate concern. And sometimes that can be as simple as like touching them or nodding your head that you agree or that you understand. Using brief verbal affirmations like I see or like mm-hmm, letting them know that you're keeping up with the conversation. Ask specific questions and keep them open ended so they can give a full response. Clarify what they're saying and check for understanding. And that can be something as simple as, so let me make sure I understand. You're upset because this happened at school. And then they agree. And something as simple as that will make them want to share more. And also at the end, summarize and then share. After all of those steps, after listening, then you share. That's the most important part, making sure that we share at the end and not during and not interrupting. It's what you don't say that counts. Body language matters. We may not even understand, or we may not even know that we give off certain body language in conversation with people, but we do. So if we look at some of the pictures, you can tell, and it something simple as like a foot apart or having your feet crossed can influence how people want to continue to talk to you, and can influence their feelings about your response. You're giving a response to what they're saying. So make sure that we pay attention to that. As far as touch and space and your voice, how you're responding, your posture. Are you open, or do you have your hands folded? If you have your hands folded, it gives off, I don't have time for this, or I already have an attitude, or I'm upset. So pay attention to your posture. Make sure that your arms are open. That gives the person talking to you the feeling that you care, that you're open to listen, and you have time for them. Make sure that, of course, you have good eye contact, and watch your facial expressions. That matters so much. If I'm telling you a really difficult or hard story and you have like a confused face, or you have a smiling face when I'm telling you a sad story, then that might make me not want to share anything with you. So make sure that you give the right facial expressions when talking to your children, because they definitely pay attention to those. So let's talk about toddlers. These are our little ones. Positive strategies that we can use to communicate with them. Of course, some of them may not be able to talk and have full blown conversations. And if your children or your child is anything like mine, at 3 and 4, she was. So I had to be prepared and ready for that. But some positive strategies would be to play with your children. Sit on the floor and use those dolls and make them interact. Um, and that's something that we use in play therapy with my professor, Dr. Thornton, who invited me to speak today. And there were several ways that she taught us how to communicate with children, and that that's the way that they want to communicate with us. So paying attention to the way that they play. Also playing pretend, making faces, and then continuing to watch our body language. For primary school age students, children ages 4 to 8 years old, drawing. My daughter is in that stage right now, and I can tell you that she draws everything. She draws sad faces sometimes. I'm like, well, what is this? So paying attention to those drawings, or draw together to tell stories, helps. Making objects and being creative is the way that they like to communicate also. Playing games, using pictures, even sand play, dancing, telling stories, and dressing up. So sometimes reading stories to them and having them give feedback also allows them to communicate things that they are going through or feeling. So make sure that you incorporate some of those things with these age children. Youth ages 8 and up. So they like to create stories and comics, and this is something that I infuse into my lessons at the school. I allow them to make a comic strip, and in that, they're able to tell their stories, and that's how they primarily want to communicate. They're not so open to tell you this is what's going on and this is how I feel, but drawing it and creating their own narrative really, really helps. They can also do things like write plays. And although we don't really like to admit it, using technology is a great way to help us communicate. And it makes them feel more safe if they're shy or afraid to talk in person. Journaling is a great source, and I recommend this to all of my parents that are in that stage of having trouble talking with teenagers or youth 8 and up. Have a journal, especially if you work hours that don't allow you to spend that face to face quality time with your children. Journal to them, write them notes, and have them respond to you. That's an awesome way to get your point across, and then to know exactly how they're feeling or what they're going through at school. Chart success. This is something that we use at school, and it's called social shape up. And we chart successes, and we also chart negative behaviors that we see. But having things like, oh, you did your chores today, charting success that you see and giving them rewards for it. And also through music. And that's a cool way to see like what they're into, what they're interested in, and also just to have a good time. But sometimes communicating is saying absolutely nothing. Adolescence, which is probably the hardest to have conversations with. It's not easy to talk to teens, but these are some ways to help you. Pick a safe environment. Make sure that it's a open room, or you're at home and no one else is around. This is when they might want to communicate with you most. Be clear about privacy. So let them know and be straightforward. Hey, you can talk to me about anything. Like, it's gonna be between the two of us, and let them know that. Now, if anything like my mom, and again, mom, I'm sorry, I'm telling all our business today, but my mom would, the things that I would tell her, I would hear her on the phone maybe an hour later with her girlfriends and telling them what I said. And I did not like that. I would hear, girl, let me tell you what Raven just came here and told me. Such and such did this and this and this at school. And I'm just like, really, mom? So it made me not want to tell her things because I knew that she would share it to someone else, and I wasn't comfortable with that. So make sure that you're clear about privacy and you stick to it. Using music and conversation together, just like we talked about with youth 8 and up. Using film and conversations together. Sometimes watching like uncomfortable videos. And I know like sex is a big topic that we don't like to talk about with teens, but watching movies and then having that conversation about it might help. Journaling, again, is a cool way to keep in touch and talk with your children day in and day out. Even if you do it once a week, it helps. Challenge them and use feeling words. Use those I statements with them also. Make plans together. That's one of my big ones. Um, every month for sure, me and my daughter, her name is Drea, we do a Ray and Dre day. So we do something that she wants to do, something that I want to do. So if I want to go eat at this place and she wants to go to the movies, we do both. And we spend that time together. And we use that time to talk and be open. That's the most important. That's why it has two exclamation points, because you have to be open about what your child is saying. Are you ready to hear what they have to say? Are you truly ready? If they say, "Mom, I have a boyfriend," are you going to respond by saying, "You know that you're not of age to have a boyfriend"? Are you going to say, "Okay, tell me a little more about this"? Make sure that you're ready to have those difficult conversations and that you have the appropriate response. So sometimes we beg them to talk and to tell us more, but you have to make sure that you're prepared to handle that. So what you just need to do and make sure that you have effective communication with your children is to make, build, use, and grow. Make them feel safe. Okay. Make them feel like you want to talk to them. You crave and desire and you care about what they say. Make them feel okay to even open up. Build communicative adults. Like I said before, we are training children up. What we teach them now helps them become better adults. We have to make sure that we are giving them the tools that we need, mimicking that, and then letting them know that it's okay to say how you feel. Use the information that children give you to strengthen them. So listening to them, and then in turn days later repeat that information back to them and let them know that you care, that you remember it, and that it was important. So use that information. For instance, they might say, "Oh, I really like this video game," or "I really like the color blue." And then days or weeks later, like, "Hey, I saw this video game on that's coming out. Would you like that?" They they will then understand that you cared about what they told you, or what they shared with you. And grow with your child. Communicating is not always easy. Make sure that you're using the tools that you're also trying to teach them, not just with your children, but with adults and in work settings also. So the story that I told you guys earlier about the girl at school, it was completely fictitious. It was not true. Again, I told you guys that I created that when I was actually on a flight back home, but keep that in the back of your mind. So that message is just to talk and listen, because that's the only way that communication can work. If you listen, and I don't mean listen to respond, listen to understand first and then respond. It's so important to give children our attention, or they will become attention seeking in the wrong way. So even at the age of 4 or 5, when they want to talk nonstop, or when they want to ask silly off the wall questions, give them your attention so they can feel like you care, and that you can tell they can tell you anything. This will then translate into adolescence, when the conversations become a little deeper. John doesn't want to play with me anymore, or Jessica called me ugly today at school. Those we might give a little attention to and teach them some little skills to move on. But if we don't listen to, Mommy, today I made a snowflake at school, if we don't listen to that, years later, they won't want to tell us, Mom, my uncle made me feel uncomfortable. Mom, my cousin touched me inappropriately. If we don't listen to the little things, they won't ever tell us the big things that's going on. And that's not okay. And if you hear that, then an alarm sets off in the back of your mind. And we want to give that same attention as we do to the big problems to the little problems also. You have to treat the 5-year-old talk, the 5-year-old small talk, with the same attention that we will treat the same conversations or worse conversations in adolescence and in teenage years. So that we don't ever miss an opportunity to hear the bigger issues or the bigger stories. Right? That is all I have for you guys today. We have just a few minutes left, so I'm gonna go back and look at the chat box to see if you guys have any questions for me. Go ahead and take the opportunity to do that.
Mute myself. Okay, well, Miss Dunlap, thank you so much. We'll do one more call. If anyone has any questions for her, comments, please leave those in the chat box at this time. Final call for questions or comments. Okay. Okay. There is a question. It says, "Great job, Raven. Is there any way that?" Okay, and Miss Davenport projected it for you, so they would like the PowerPoint if it's available to share with parents.
Yes, I can share that with you guys. There's a way I can put it maybe on the website for them, or I can just send it to you all and they can push
Okay.
it out an email.
Yes, yes. I'm not sure about posting it to the website, but I would think possibly the email would probably likely be the method. So yes, to those to Miss Delmore who asked that question, we will work on getting the PowerPoint from Miss Dunlap and then emailing it to the participants for this session.
Perfect.
And then we had a good morning from New Orleans. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
And then we also had someone said they're kind of asking the same question, that they came in a little late, so they would like the PowerPoint so they could review, the content that they missed. So yes, to that as well. We'll work on getting the copy of the PowerPoint and
Yeah.
emailing it to you guys. Okay. We have one more comment. How do you suggest to talk to kids about things that may be uncomfortable topics? So going back to that, when a topic is uncomfortable for the
Mhm.
kid and or the parent, can you go over some tips for that?
Yes. Well, first, make sure that you're ready to talk about uncomfortable topics yourself. Are you ready to hear that your child may be doing something that is not great? Are you ready to hear that your child is going through something difficult? Make sure that you're mentally prepared for that. And that may even include like talking to a colleague or talking to a counselor or someone to prepare yourself for that. And then ask the questions. The only way to communicate is to just do it. There's no real strategy. You just have to ask those difficult questions and then be prepared for a response and be prepared to give feedback. So just do it like Nike.
I think that was great advice for sure. Just being there, and being willing to
Yes.
have the conversation. It may not go
Yeah.
perfectly, but
Right.
just being that listening ear and someone willing to
Yeah.
talk about it with them would
And
mean a
have
lot.
small conversations with those 5-year-olds that turn into 15-year-olds, and they'll
Mhm.
want to continue to talk.
Mhm. Mhm. Very good. Awesome. Well, you're just getting some praise here at the end, and we want to thank you as well on behalf of eye care. It was a great topic, great session. We really, and Miss Ashley says she really likes, just do it.
Let's
Thank you, Miss
do
Johnson, for
it.
saying that. Okay, so I want to remind all of our participants that you will need to complete an evaluation in order to receive your certificate of completion. So that will be emailed to you in 2 weeks, but you must complete the evaluation today, and the end time for that is 4:30. So all participants, please complete your evaluation for this session that was emailed to you by 4:30. So that's the cutoff, no later than 4:30. So we have breaks and lunch built in, and you're going to need to go ahead and do that evaluation. If you have any questions about the certificate, that contact person at the eye care office is Chandra DeLone. So if you need to reach out for any reason, you would need to ask for Miss Chandra DeLone. And then we just one final, thank you to everybody for attending today. Thank you, Ms. Dunlap, for an awesome
Thank you.
presentation. And we just ask that you always remember eye care for your prevention and community needs, and reach out if you need us. We're here. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.